Imagine earning passive income from a regulated Solana ETF and an SEC that not only allows it, but encourages it. That future might just be weeks away. The SEC just fast-tracked major ETF filings, and Solana could be next in line with staking rewards that Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs never offered. In this video, we'll break down the timeline, price potential, and why Solana might be the biggest crypto story of 2025. Subscribe now because the next alert could change everything. This is Joe from Joe Knows the Cryptos, and if you're not a subscriber, again, hit that subscribe to follow along my journey in this crypto universe. As always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I do this purely for your entertainment. And with that, let's get into it. Things are certainly heating up for Solana. You know, I think about last week's SEC chair's speech right here.
Another core feature of blockchain technology is the ability of individuals to have self-custody of crypto assets in a personal digital wallet. The right to have self-custody of one's private property is a foundational American value that should not disappear when one logs on to the internet. I'm in favor of affording greater flexibility to market participants to self-custody crypto.
Now, I know this doesn't have a ton to do with the Sol ETF, but I will tell you, this speech is the one that kicked off. I mean, when you have an SEC chair that's so pro-crypto, they're saying, I mean, they've been fighting crypto for years. They had Choke Point 2.0 and choking off crypto to the rest of the world, not making it more available. And the SEC is one of the reasons that the Sol ETF has been pushed up. And the SEC said that they would re-examine the ETF filings. They actually pushed people like Grayscale and Fidelity to amend their ETF filings to allow for that staking. So this is going to be revolutionary and can change, you know, ETFs. Right now, Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs don't have that staking ability. And so Sol's going to be the first one that's going to be applying for that staking ability in the ETF. You know, and it could give you rewards of 3 to 5%, maybe 7% on top of what the appreciation of the crypto itself. So, you know, this speech boosted Sol by about 5%. Where it called self-custody a foundational value. Now, look, Bloomberg also says that the odds of the approval in 2025 for this staking ETF is about it's about 90%. So a very strong odds of approval. I'd up that to 95% after this speech. And here's the thing, is that the last time that the SEC pushed Ethereum to file or amend their filings, they were approved within 3 to 5 weeks after that amount of time. So this would put an approval for the Sol ETF July, maybe into August, which speeds up that timeline because they originally had till about October to address these things. So I think they want to fast track this. I think they want to get it moving. You know, again, not financial advice, but we're going to get into price predictions and things like that. But let's talk about the lessons we've learned from Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Now, if you look at just where the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs are, there's $141 billion, $141 billion with a B, assets under management with the Bitcoin and Ethereum. And now it breaks out like this. Bitcoin has 131 billion assets under management. Ethereum is 10 billion. So Ethereum's a small fraction of that of Bitcoin. And, you know, I don't expect Solana to reach 131 billion. That would far exceed its current market cap. You know, if you look at Solana right now, where is its market cap? I'm probably on the wrong page, but it is far under that. I mean, Solana is right here at 6. It's got 4 billion under 4 billion or $82 billion market cap. Gosh, I'm really having a hard time this morning. $82 billion market cap. It pales in comparison to Bitcoin's $2.1 trillion. Ethereum, is 315. Then you have XRP. It's a little bit more than half that of XRP. but it still has a lot of room to run, which makes this so exciting. So if you look back again at the Bitcoin ETF, if I look at the price of Bitcoin, the ETF was down here when it launched back in January of 2024. It's appreciated 127%. Now, the day one of the Bitcoin ETF brought in $4.6 billion. $4.6 billion. Ethereum, it's up about 48% the first year in its ETFs. And, Ethereum has had its own issues with people having faith, losing faith, and things like that. So the price really hasn't, if you look at Ethereum on here, the price has changed significantly since May, but, it has had strong inflows of $10 billion. So a lot going on with that. We're looking at SOL, the ETF could offer 3 to 7% staking abilities, returns. And, Ethereum simply doesn't have that. Now, I believe that Ethereum will apply for that. The Ethereum ETFs will apply for that. And maybe we'll see some updates there. But SOL could certainly attract maybe $1 to $5 billion of inflows pretty quickly. So let's talk about the price potential. Now, I got a couple different targets here. Short term. Let's talk about short term. Assuming the ETF gets approved, short term, you're looking at a price, and this is not financial advice. This is what I'm looking at purely for your entertainment purposes, but I'm looking at a target of 260, which would be close to its, recent all-time high, to $400 this year. So it could really spike the price of Solana if we see some decent inflows. In the midterm, if staking momentum holds, people lock up. When you stake something, you're basically locking up and taking that off the market. And so if you're taking that ETF, if the ETF is taking that Solana off the market, can't be bought or sold, then that's going to push more pressure on the rest of the SOL and put more pressure on the price if people are buying it to stake it. So, that could push price to $500 to $800. Now, looking at an extreme bull case, people have talked about $1,000 Solana in 2026, 2027. Let's take a look what that really, really means. So to get $1,000 Solana in this bull run, you have to look at past performance. So if I take the last cycle high around 259, 260, and I take the last cycle low and I draw my Fibonacci from that, you will see that we went past the one Fibonacci. We're back down between this zone here, the 0.618. Oop, I moved that around. Don't want to move that too much. The 0.618 to 0.5. In this zone, it tends to get stuck down here sometimes. And once it breaks through again, if it breaks through again, we could see a nice upside momentum. But look, to get to 1,000, we're talking about a 4.2x from market highs of the last market, which isn't totally unreasonable given past performance, but past performance isn't indicative of future results. And we have, typically a 2.618 is a lot more reasonable. That's, somewhere between the 1.6 and the 2.618. We're talking 415 to 667. Now, if we have perfect clarity in markets, if we have a perfect macroeconomic picture, if the Fed starts to pump money, the SEC clears the way, the ETFs go extraordinarily well, the staking goes well, people see Solana for what it is, a faster, cheaper version of Ethereum, we could well see that $1,000, but it'd have to overtake a lot. Now, one thing that, we've talked about, that staking, that certainly helps lock away crypto, and when it stakes, you're locking away that, and it helps pump prices if it stays staked because there's less available on the market. But a lot of things have to happen perfectly for us to go up to this level of $1,000. Not saying it's impossible. I just don't think it's likely. I think if the staking the staking of SOL goes well, and I think if the ETF goes well, and the macroeconomic picture, we don't have as much turmoil in the Middle East. We don't have a lot more tariff or Elon Trump fights. Then we could see somewhere around this range. I'm looking at a target rate of 450 to 550 this cycle if everything goes well. I would be shocked and Super stoked if it went to 1,000, but I'll be taking profits all the way up. So I might not have a ton left of $1,000 if it does go there, but I'll be happy that I profited in this zone here a lot. And so look, is there a bear case? Yes, there is a bear case. Now the bear case I think is certainly possible if the ETF doesn't go well, if there are network issues, if network issues pop up and persist, if there is not a clear macroeconomic picture, if the SEC does change their mind on crypto, or legislators don't vote in a lot of the rules and laws that they're proposing right now, and that we do have that approval risk. Past network outages play a role in there. Regulatory status. While Atkins is certainly pro crypto, and with the passage of the Genius Act and soon Clarity Act, we will have much more clarity. But right now, the Clarity Act hasn't passed, so these are all potential issues. Now, why does Solana stand out? It is, like I said before, it is faster and cheaper than Ethereum. Now, someone once reminded me that Ethereum, while it seems slow to people that know a lot about Solana and other type of layer ones, that Ethereum does seem very slow. But for the non-crypto bros and the finance bros on Wall Street, Ethereum is extraordinarily fast compared to the current financial system. That being said, once they do find out about Solana and they really understand it, right now the big institutions are buying Ethereum. Might they shift that to Solana? It's possible, because Ethereum is way slower and way more expensive than Solana. Solana also has a smaller market cap, more room to grow. Solana's social sentiment is extraordinarily strong right now. It actually has surpassed ETH in certain social engagements. So, and that's retail, really. I mean, if social is how it gets out there, and more people are talking about Solana than Ethereum, eventually they're going to get curious, look into it, and possibly purchase it and make the value go up. So let me just wrap it up here. The Solana ETF isn't just another product. It's a potential game changer with staking rewards, blazing speeds, and growing institutional interest. Solana could be the breakout asset of this year, 2025. Yeah, there are certainly risks, but if the SEC gives the green light, the upside could be massive. So do me a favor, drop your price prediction in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe to stay ahead of the next big move. And with that, this is Joe from Joe Knows the Cryptos, and I will see you next time.